My name is Gail. I woke up in a dim VIP hospital room, the 4 dripping slowly in my arm, and the heart monitor beeping steadily beside me. The clock on the wall read 2:07 a.m. My mouth tasted like copper, and the door was half open. Fluorescent light from the hallway cut a line across the floor. Through the half-open door, I heard low voices. It was Doris, my mother-in-law, and her daughter, Lily. Doris's whisper was urgent. "Are you sure she took it?" Lily let out a quiet laugh. "Relax, Mom. She ate half the plate. By tomorrow morning, everything will be ours." My blood went cold. Every muscle in my body went rigid, but I kept my eyes half closed and my breathing slow. Doris continued, "Lyle needs to present the paperwork first thing before she wakes up properly. The POA gives him authority to speak to the bank, the business, everything. It's in his bag. And Judge Thompson's clerk is expecting the filing Monday morning, 2 business days, and we control the trust, the LLC, the accounts. She'll be too sedated to challenge it. By the time she's lucid, it will be done." After they moved down the hallway and a door closed, I lay still for 60 seconds. Then I reached for my purse on the chair beside the bed and grabbed my phone. The screen lit my face. It was 2:14 a.m. And the battery was at 34%. I opened my messages and typed one line to my attorney, "Laura. Execute the plan now." The reply came in 90 seconds. "On my way. Do not say anything to anyone." I set the phone face down on the blanket and stared at the ceiling, the heart monitor beeping steadily. To understand how I got here, I need to go back. I grew up in a small town in Texas. My father passed away when I was young, and my mother, a hard-working schoolteacher, raised me alone. We lived in a modest house on the outskirts of town. I learned early that success came from hard work and determination. I got a scholarship to study nursing at the University of Texas. After graduating at the top of my class, I took a job in the ER of a local hospital. I loved the work, but I saw so many patients being discharged without proper aftercare. So, I started Gail's Home Health Services from my living room. With just a laptop, a filing cabinet, and a phone that never stopped ringing, I built my business from the ground up. Within a few years, I had a team of dedicated nurses and covered several counties in the area. I was proud of what I had built, but I was also naive. I didn't notice the wolves circling around me. I met Lyle at a charity event for local healthcare initiatives. He was tall, charming, and a good listener. He asked me about my work, and when I told him about my home health agency, he showed genuine interest. We dated for a year, and I thought I had found the love of my life. When he took me to meet his family, I was welcomed with open arms. Their mansion was located in a gated community on the edge of the city. Doris greeted me at the door with a hug and a smile. "You're exactly what this family needs," she said. The table was set with fine china that had been in the family for generations. Lily, Lyle's younger sister, sat across from me. She was well-dressed and polite, but there was something in her eyes that made me uncomfortable. She sized me up like a business deal. Lyle checked his phone twice during dinner, both times answering Doris's calls immediately. I noted these things but didn't think much of them at the time. 6 months after our wedding, Doris invited me to lunch. At a fancy restaurant she frequented, she ordered for both of us. Then, she set her fork down and said, "Gail, Lyle and I have been thinking. Our family trust manages all our real estate, investments, and tax planning. We think it would be a good idea to fold your business assets into the trust for better protection and efficiency." I took a sip of water and replied, "Doris, I appreciate the offer, but my home health service is my baby. I built it before I married Lyle, and I'd like to keep it separate." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Of course, dear. Just something to think about. The offer is always open." That night, Lyle brought it up again while we were doing the dishes. "Mom is just trying to help. She knows what she's doing. Don't make it a big deal. I dried a plate and said, I'm not making it a big deal. I said no. He went quiet, and I felt the invisible pull between him and his mother. One summer, we had a family barbecue at their house. Lily arrived in a new sports car and talked about her new event planning business. I offered to help, but she declined coldly. Later, I went inside for ice and overheard her on the phone in the laundry room. She acts like she's the only one who works. Try building something when your own mother won't stop comparing you to the golden daughter-in-law. I understood her jealousy. She had started 2 businesses with Doris's money, and both had failed. I had built my business from scratch, and it was thriving. But what bothered me more was what she said about Doris comparing us. I realized that Doris wasn't just interested in my business, she wanted to control it. One Tuesday night, while reconciling our joint checking account, I found a transfer of $12,000 to an account I didn't recognize. I showed Lyle the statement. He barely glanced at it and said, Mom needed it for a short-term property deal. She'll pay it back. I set the paper down slowly. Lyle, that's our emergency fund. He shrugged. It's just temporary. Don't make a fuss. I tried to set a boundary. From now on, no transfers from our joint account without both of us agreeing first. He nodded and said, fair enough. But 2 weeks later, another $5,000 was gone. When I confronted him, he said Doris had a tight deadline and he didn't want to bother me at work. That weekend, I opened a personal account at a different bank. I moved my business income there and rerouted my direct deposits, leaving just enough in the joint account to cover the household bills. Lyle didn't notice for 3 weeks. When he finally did, he asked, why did you do that? I replied, because I work long hours for that money, and I should know where it goes. He went quiet and I felt the pull again, but this time, I didn't back down. I threw myself into work. A regional hospital wanted my agency to handle their post-discharge program for several counties. It was the biggest deal since I started the business. I hired more nurses, bought a new van, and worked late into the night. I missed Lyle's birthday dinner that Doris had organized. I called to apologize, but Doris picked up the phone. Oh, we understand, dear. Business comes first for some people. Lyle didn't call me back that night. One Monday, a certified letter arrived. One of the commercial buildings Lyle co-owned with Doris had $340,000 in unpaid property taxes, 3 years overdue. That night, I sat Lyle down with the letter in front of us. I asked, how bad is it? He said, Mom says it's manageable. I leaned forward. Lyle, how bad? Slowly, he revealed that the family's commercial portfolio, which Doris had managed for 30 years, was in deep trouble. The total exposure was close to $900,000. Doris called that evening, as warm as ever. Gail, I know Lyle told you about our challenges. We're family, and we share. I was wondering if we could arrange a temporary transfer from your business accounts to stabilize things for 6 months. I said, no, clear and final. There was a pause on the line. Then she said, I see. Well, we'll find another way. A few weeks later, we had a Sunday dinner at their house. Doris made her famous lasagna. I ate 2 servings and complimented her cooking. That night, around midnight, I woke up vomiting violently. My heart was racing, and my skin was clammy. Lyle drove me to the urgent care. The doctor said it looked like a standard GI bug, probably viral gastroenteritis. I asked him if it could be something I ate. He said it was possible but unlikely unless others got sick too. Nobody else at the dinner got sick. I went home, slept for 14 hours, and spent 3 days recovering. On the second day, I wrote down what I ate, who cooked it, and who else ate it. I put the note in my desk drawer at the office. 2 weeks later, I was back to normal, but Lyle started asking strange questions. How does your business bank account work? Is it only in your name? I asked him why, and he said it was for estate planning. Mom said we should understand each other's finances better. I didn't answer and changed the subject. That night, after Lyle fell asleep, I pulled up my LLC operating agreement. I realized that if I became incapacitated, Lyle, as my spouse, was listed as the interim manager with authority over the business. I also checked my healthcare power of attorney. It named Lyle as my healthcare agent, and a separate durable financial power of attorney gave him broad authority over my accounts and assets if I became incapacitated. My chest tightened. I wasn't a suspicious person, but the evidence was starting to point in a direction I didn't want to believe. I opened a new document on my computer and began drafting changes to my succession plan. One day, while looking for a charger in Lyle's work bag, I found a manila folder. Inside was a healthcare power of attorney with my name at the top and Lyle listed as my healthcare agent. The date was 7 months earlier, and the signature at the bottom was not mine. I knew my own handwriting well, having signed it thousands of times. I photographed every page and put the folder back exactly where I found it. I met my friend, Sarah, a pharmacist, for coffee. She told me that someone had called the pharmacy asking about my prescription history and medical records, claiming to be from my primary care doctor's office for a hospital pre-mission workup. I didn't have a pre-mission workup, and the call-back number didn't match my doctor's office. They had also asked about any history of psychiatric treatment or cognitive impairment. I told Sarah about the illness after dinner, Lyle's questions, and the forged POA. She said, "Gail, you need a lawyer. Not the family's lawyer. Your own attorney. And if you think you were poisoned, get baseline blood work done now." The next morning, I called the state bar referral line and asked for an attorney specializing in trust and estate litigation with experience in asset protection. I chose Laura because her firm was small and independent with no connections to the local real estate network. Laura listened to my story for 45 minutes without interrupting. She said, "You have a forgery, a pattern of financial boundary violations, and an unauthorized inquiry into your medical records. You have a narrow window before they escalate." She recommended several steps: restructure my trust immediately, remove Lyle as the beneficiary and successor trustee, update my business succession plan, replacing Lyle as the emergency manager, pre-file a challenge to the forged POA with the county clerk, and set up a dead man's switch. One day, Lyle left his laptop open on the kitchen counter. A notification popped up. It was an email from Doris to a lawyer named Mark. The subject line read, Emergency Conservatorship Timeline. The email outlined a step-by-step plan to have me declared incapacitated, take control of my business and personal accounts, and transfer them to the family trust. I took screenshots and sent them to Laura. She replied within an hour. "This changes our timeline. Get the blood work done this week, and don't skip the upcoming dinner." The next 5 weeks were the longest of my life. Laura and I worked fast. The trust was restructured, and my assets were placed in an irrevocable trust with Laura as the emergency trustee. I changed all my passwords and moved the remaining money from the joint account to my personal account. At home, I pretended everything was normal. I cooked dinner, watched TV with Lyle, and answered Doris's phone calls with a smile. Inside, I was counting the days and waiting for the right moment. I went to my primary care doctor and asked for a comprehensive blood work panel. I told her about the food poisoning episode and wanted a clean baseline. The results came back normal. I drove to Laura's office and gave her a printed copy. "If my next set of labs shows something that's not on this panel, then someone put it there," I said. 2 days later, Doris called to invite me to a dinner on our 3rd wedding anniversary. "I'm making something special," she said. I agreed to go. I called Laura during my lunch break, and she said she'd be on standby from 6 p.m. The dead man's switch was active. If I didn't text her by 11 p.m., she'd execute the full package. On Friday night, I prepared for the dinner like a nurse prepping for a procedure. I packed a fully charged phone, a portable charger, a sealed water bottle, and a list of emergency contacts. I called Sarah and asked her to call the hospital and request a full toxicology panel on my blood if I ended up at the hospital. On Saturday, I drove to their house. Doris greeted me at the door with a hug. The dining room was beautifully set. Lily and Lyle were already there. When Doris poured the wine, I held up my water bottle and said I was on an early shift the next day. Dinner was delicious, but I was on high alert. After dinner, Doris brought out a chocolate mousse, my favorite. I took a bite, and it tasted off. There was a strange, bitter aftertaste. I looked up, and Doris was watching me intently. I knew I had to get evidence. I ate half of the mousse. 20 minutes later, I started feeling nauseous. I excused myself and went to the bathroom. I texted Laura, symptoms starting. I had the dessert. Maybe 30 minutes before I lose function. Stand B. Lyle offered to call Doris's doctor, but I said, take me to the hospital, not a private doctor. Doris opened the door for me, not knowing that I was one step ahead of her. At the hospital, the ER team triaged me quickly. They started in 4, drew blood, and ran an EKG. Doris arrived within 15 minutes and demanded a private room. The hospital accommodated her. I drifted in and out of consciousness. When I finally woke up at 2:07 a.m. I heard Doris and Lily's conversation. And that's how I ended up sending that text to Laura. At 8 a.m. I was sitting up, my head clearing. Laura arrived at 7:45. She sat in the visitor's chair and opened her laptop. At 8:10 a.m. The door opened. Doris, Lily, and Lyle entered the room. Doris saw Laura and asked, "Who is this?" I said, "This is my attorney, Laura." Doris's face changed. Laura didn't waste any time. She presented the evidence of the forged POA, the unauthorized financial transfers, and the plan for emergency conservatorship. Doris tried to downplay it, saying I was confused. I said, I have baseline blood work from 2 weeks ago, and there's a full toxicology panel running on my blood right now. If it shows a substance that wasn't in my baseline, this is a criminal matter. Lily broke down first. She said she didn't know what the substance was in the mousse. Laura explained that Lily was potentially liable as an accessory. Lyle also faced charges for his signature on the forged POA. I looked at Doris and said quietly, "Family does not poison family, Doris." The room went silent. Within the hour, the police arrived. Laura handed over all the evidence. I pressed charges. The toxicology results came back positive for a sedative hypnotic not prescribed to me. Doris was arrested the next afternoon on charges of assault by administering a noxious substance, forgery, conspiracy to commit financial fraud, and attempted financial exploitation. Bail was set at $150,000. Lily cooperated with the district attorney's office. Her charges were reduced to misdemeanor conspiracy, and she was required to testify against Doris. Lyle's charges were reduced to a single count of financial document fraud, with no jail time but a felony on his record. I filed for divorce the same week I was discharged from the hospital. It was finalized in 4 months. I kept everything I had built, my home health agency, my personal accounts, my trust, and my home. 6 months later, I signed a contract with another regional hospital, expanding my business. I changed the locks on my house, planted a garden, and adopted a cat. Sarah and I now meet for coffee on Saturdays, and we talk about everything except hospitals and lawyers. I learned that sometimes, the people who claim to be family are the ones you need to protect yourself from the most. And silence can be a powerful strategy when you're building a case against those who want to take what's yours.